Circle family, this is Alana from Tulsa, Oklahoma. As you guys saw in the email, we are starting the Jewish high holidays this Friday, September 18th. The first high holiday is Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. A big thing that we do on the Jewish New Year is we say, may you have a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year, Shana Tova U'Metuka. And one of the other ways we do this is through the food that we eat. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to make some apple cake. This is a recipe that my grandmother passed down to my mom and passed down to us. And this is just a really easy, sweet, yummy recipe that we all do in my family to start the new year. And I figured I'd share it with you. So we're going to get started. We're first going to start with the dry ingredients. So what you're going to, and this will all be in the email, you're first going to need 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar. So I'm just going to put these all in my bowl. So again, 3 cups of flour, and then I did some pre-measurement. So 3 cups of flour I'm putting in, and now I'm putting in 2 cups of sugar. I'm also going to, again, continuing my dry ingredient trend, I'm going to get in there 3 teaspoons of baking powder. 1, 2, 3. And then other dry ingredients I would have would be my salt, and that is a half a teaspoon of salt I'm going to put in. And then, yeah, those are my dry ingredients. So we have these, I'm gonna start mixing these up. In my bowl, if I could get it. All right, I'm gonna start mixing these up. Again, I'm not a chef, so I think you do dry ingredients first, but we're gonna go with it. So right now, again, I'm mixing my dry ingredients. They're pretty mixed. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my wet ingredients. And those will be 4 eggs, 1 cup of oil, 1/4 of a cup of orange juice, and then there's going to be some vanilla coming in, which will be 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla. So I'm going to use my ½ teaspoon so that way I don't mess it up. So that's 1, 2 teaspoons, and then here's that other half. All right, 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla. So we put my flour, my sugar, my oil, my eggs, my orange juice, salt, baking powder, and vanilla. Now it's time to mix. So this mixture is actually really sticky. So if you're making this and you're like, I'm doing this wrong, or this is too sticky, you're actually doing it right. You want it to be a bit sticky. I don't quite know why, but that's what we want from here. So now I'm going to start mixing my batter. Once my batter is done, we're going to then start getting the cake together. You can use a butt pan, you can use the glass Pyrex, I've done tin foil, whatever you have, feel free to use. You really can't mess this recipe up. So however you put it together is totally fine. So the way this works is you want to first spray the pan, I already did that ahead of time, and then we're going to do layers. So you're first going to do 1 layer of the batter, and then you're going to do 1 layer of apples. Typically the recipe calls for about 4 apples. I do 3. If I need more, I'll throw in a few. Again, the apple to batter ratio is pretty flexible. So again, if you're not an apple person, do less apples. If you like apples, do more. Whatever works for you is really perfectly fine for this recipe. So again, this is almost mixed. Once I'm done mixing, I'm going to start. I will put a layer of batter followed by a layer of apples. And then the last piece for the layer will be some cinnamon and sugar. So what I did, I just blended a bunch of sugar and I put some cinnamon in it. And that will be the 3rd piece of the layer. And then you do that over again. So it's batter, apple, cinnamon, sugar. Okay, so I think my batter is done. It looks good. It looks pretty sticky, which is again exactly what you want. You don't want it to be too loose. If it's loose, never really happened to me, but you can see what happens. This is really, can't quite mess this recipe up, but yeah, so I don't expect you to have any challenges with a little bit looser. I'm going to just gonna leave that because time is precious. All right, this is gonna probably drip a little bit, but that's why we have paper towels. Okay, so like I said, I'm going going to do my batter first. So I just typically take any of my utensils that I've used already to create my batter. It doesn't have to be like perfectly or evenly spread out, because this will it will spread out as you go. So I'm gonna show you once I get my batter in there to show you how I typically do it. But again, just kind of spread it around. See how it feels for you. All right, so I just put my first layer of batter in. Again, it's not too heavy. Yeah, so then I've just done my batter, and then now I'm gonna layer my apples in. Again, do the amount that you feel right with. Apples, when it's done, the apples do give it more moisture. So if you want like a more moist cake, the apples definitely help with that. So I just put my layer of apples in, and then now I'm gonna spread my cinnamon sugar around it. Really helpful to have a clear bundt pan. That would be helpful for this, but hey, you win some, you lose some. So again, this is how it looks. And then now it's time for layer number 2. I'm actually gonna get a bigger spoon this time. That way I can get more batter in and spread it around. And it's pretty sticky. So while I'm doing this, again, this is a really exciting time for the Jewish community. The new year, as we all know, in the secular calendar, is an exciting time. We've just had a whole year and we're ready for something new. And that's similar to what Rosh Hashanah is for the Jewish community. We have had a whole year, and now it's time for us to start fresh. During this time, it's also pretty common for us to really reflect back on the year and then like to think of, are there things we could have done differently, things we could have want to do better this coming year. So it's a lot of self-reflection. I would say a lot of the way that a more common way of celebrating this is through obviously having a festive meal, because that's pretty much every Jewish holiday where we eat, but having a festive meal is a pretty common thing, as well as going to synagogue or temple to pray. That's a big element. And again, just really our prayers are thanking God, but also asking God for forgiveness, and then asking others for forgiveness. So that's typically what Rosh Hashanah is all about. Other meals we do like some, again, because we're trying to, food is connected a lot to our holidays. Rosh Hashanah, a big one is eating sweets, because we want a sweet new year, like I said earlier. We're also wanting kind of things in the shape of a circle, because fun fact, Rosh means head. And so on Rosh Hashanah, it is symbolic for us to eat things that are round. So we do the apples. We also do our challah, which is typically like this shape. We do it in a circle instead. So those are 2 examples. That's pretty much what I do in my family. We also, in our looking at our festive meal, we are also trying to think of some foods to add that are sweeter. So my dad would like maybe do some apricot chicken, or just adding some fruits or sweet things into the mix when we are eating our meals. So that's pretty cool. Trying to think. Another thing, in addition to sweet things we do on this holiday, is blow what we call a shofar. This shofar is it's a ram's horn, and this tradition here is loud. And so the tradition of why we do that is to call attention, like so that way all around the world we are blowing the shofar. We actually start blowing it before the holiday starts, about I think a few months. Don't quote me, but we do this sometime ahead of the holiday to really kind of start getting ourselves ready to go for it. And then during the holiday as well, we also blow the shofar. So that's another thing that we do on Rosh Hashanah, in addition to eating our sweet, delicious things. Okay. So again, I'm layering this. It really did, if you have a bigger pan, you're not going to be doing as many layers, because I've chosen a bundt pan. There's a lot of layers because it's pretty narrow and pretty kind of small. So yeah, so you're just going to continue to layer it. Again, remember you're doing batter, apple, sugar, and then batter, apple, sugar until you essentially run out. And the last layer, I typically go pretty heavy on the sugar on the last layer. So if you want to end with batter or end with apple, either one is fine with you, but typically just top it off with some sugar at the end. So that's pretty much it. I will leave you. I will not spend more of your time, because I still have to fill up my bundt pan. But ultimately, Once you reach the top, feel free to put this in the oven about 350 degrees, about 30 to 45 minutes. Every oven's different, so I encourage you to use your best knowledge or kind of what you know your oven to be. But you will put it in the oven, and when it's out, you'll have a beautiful apple cake. I'll add a picture of mine when it's done. We eat this throughout the holiday. My husband actually likes it second day better because it's a little more, put together. But really, whatever works for anybody is fine with them. That's just the way we get this year started.